Well, I didn't see any sort of opening up of the flashback or the controller, so I figured I could try to give it a shot. I almost wonder if there's going to be some screws underneath the pads, but I don't think so. Okay, so I didn't see any sort of openings ups of, because sometimes people are curious as to what hardware is in here and what it looks like sometimes, and this looks kind of really small, to be quite frank. Unfortunately, I don't really see a way to look into this too easy. This is obviously just sort of like a power board here. This is probably just the main board because this has both controller ports on it. But with the way this looks like, you could probably, as long as there isn't anything important, you could probably easily replace this with 2 tactile buttons and make this into a portable pretty quickly. I'll have to see if I can get up the boards real quick and see what's underneath those things, because they don't want to make things easy. This here is the controller. And of course the same problem is all the boards are upside down all the time. Let's see what we got here. We've got a number of wires. 3, 6, 8. Looks like 8 wires on here. I'll have to double check because I'm gonna have a hard time counting folded wires. I might have counted one twice or something. Okay, let's roll it. One thing I noticed real quick, just as I was about to take this off, if you look really closely, you can see that there's the excess wire hasn't been clipped off on these solder points. That's kind of actually bad. Could easily short out if they get touched for some reason. I think I might actually take that off real quick. Okay, so gotta just flip it over. Unfortunately, they have the big black blob of I can't tell what's in here. But very quickly, this is looks like 2 megabytes of SDRAM. You can look up the data sheet yourself if you want to. And looks like 16 megabytes of flash memory. This here I didn't bother flipping over because this is just a switch. This here I wanted to make sure of all the wires and make sure all the wires did something. Looks like all the wires do something. One of these wires ends up going, the trace goes backwards, so it looks like it may not be doing anything, but it's going to the downward. It goes backwards over here. It's a little hard to follow. Hold on a second. Okay. This trace here almost looks like it's not doing anything. But it goes over to this trace. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of... Also looks like it's dealing with the up and right buttons. All these other traces look like they're going in various places. So it looks like there's 9 wires on all this mess. And that's why it's not compatible with the Colecovision, because somebody said before it's only 7 wires, not 9, that the original Colecovision will deal with. But yeah, like I said, this would be you could probably kick this out and make this compact. The only problem with trying to make a portable out of that, though, might be it's really just difficult to put 9 buttons plus 2 buttons plus a controls pad on top of. It's a little, that would probably be the most difficult part, but I mean, if somebody can do a ZX Spectrum, you could probably just do that pretty quickly, easily too. It's just that you have to build your own, essentially. You build your own controller. But it doesn't look like there's anything advanced inside here, at least, and so I don't really see a whole lot of difficulty here. Unfortunately, I'm really disappointed with a lot of the build quality on the solder points, though. It also looks like some of the solder points on the control ports are really sloppy. If you have some problems with the controllers, you may want to check these, because, or you just return it because it's new. But if you have it down the road and you're watching this maybe a year in the future and you don't have a warranty on this, look at the solder points on the controller ports, because they're like this one here, it looks like it's almost crossing a couple traces already. But I haven't had any problems with it yet, so I'm not even bothering with that. Don't want to break any traces either. Yeah, these, like, it looked like they had a full half-inch wire coming out of this spot here. And that's really bad, from what I understand when I'm doing soldering. And there isn't a whole lot else to talk about on here, because it's all pretty basic and simple. This is the 5-volt. Here's the reset button, which it has 6 points, but it's only really connecting one trace to another. And then here's the power button. Or maybe I got this backwards, whatever. Regardless, like, this is connecting only one trace to another. It has the exact same thing. This is 6 points as well. This is the LED over here. There isn't much to that at all either. Probably a couple of things on top, but there's not going to be a whole lot. This probably maybe either a resistor to adjust the voltage for the LED or something, but yeah, I mean, basically this is pretty simple. I'm actually kind of disappointed they didn't find a way to make this smaller then, because it looks like half of this isn't even used. You could have made this box half the size. And I know people will probably want it to look a little more like the Colecovision, but I mean, this is just a little unnecessary to have this huge space in this. Although this looks like this was version 2.0, I wonder if maybe version 1.0 might have gone a little further out here. But since this is pretty much brand new and just came out, unless there's some early version somewhere that has a version other than 2.0, this is probably going to be the only thing that you see. It's not going to be any of them too big. But then again, maybe it was just some sort of disconnect with design and whatever. Doesn't matter. It kind of looks cool as it is. It's just that when you pick it up, it feels so incredibly light. You have to wonder what the heck's in it, and then that's why I opened it up. And I decided to record it because I have a camera and I can do that, and I haven't made a video in a long time anyway, so I might as well put something on here. So, alright. Oh, and the one thing I forgot to mention, there's only 4 screws holding this down, there's 6 screws holding this down. They're all very obvious, you can really see them plainly. Like, there's nothing underneath the label, you don't have to pull up the rubber, rubber feet or anything to get at any screws. So I'm actually kind of surprised that they only have 4 screws at the top, but nothing at the bottom here. But I mean, oh well, it's just controller anyway. So now I'll get to put everything back together. Have a good day. One last thing. I also noticed the buttons are basically your old, just carbon disc on middle contact. At least these are, and most of these look like they're about the same. And when you're taking it apart, probably the hardest thing is to get these. You only really need to take one of these boards out. So these were in there so hard. I had to actually take some pliers to them. Fortunately, there really isn't many traces on these, so you can just kind of take the pliers on the sides and pull them out, just jiggle them out, kind of, sort of. Do one side first and then the other, and it'll come out pretty well. Putting this screw back in, the one right above the disc on the controller, is the worst thing to put it back together. Alright, well, Should be the end of it all.